grassroots populist federal party. Our agenda is Canadians first, love and compassion for our people, our country. That's our agenda. We reject the globalist agenda that has been ongoing in Canada since Pierre Trudeau. It's been going on since the late 1960s, irrespective of which establishment party is in power. The LibCon establishment is behind this globalist agenda. They sold out to globalist interests back in the late 60s. And it's been getting worse and worse from year to year, decade to decade. This is a fact. Integral part of this agenda is mass migration into the country. And we're at historic levels under Justin Trudeau, and it was historic levels under Harper. And it's just been increasing. There's a radical transformation going on. The Canadian people have no say, but we are fighting back. We are fighting to take our country back. We need your help. Today, I'm going to look at a report out of the Fraser Institute. This is kind of part of this kind of LibCon establishment. It's a very misleading article, and we're going to shed light on that. The purpose is to empower you with facts, to allow you to see through the spins of how you're being manipulated. And it's not only the Fraser Institute, but this is just one example. And we should, just as a background check, the Fraser Institute, and they do some good work, but you have to always take them with a grain of salt. You have to take them with a grain of salt. They are part of the Atlas Network, which is funded in the millions by the Koch Brother. The Koch Brother supports globalist trade. He's associated with globalist trade, open borders, cheap foreign labor flooding the country. This isn't good. But you know, these organizations, these nonprofits, they take the money, strings attached, and they're beholden to that agenda. So this article came out on January 7th, 2020. It's a nice chart. It's talking about Prime Minister and government spending. That's very misleading. Very deceptive there. 220 edition. Basically, it shows the per person program spending. Per person program spending undertaken annually by Prime Minister, subject to inflation, adjusted to inflation since 1870. And if you look at the chart, you would probably think that Justin Trudeau is the worst of them all. He's got the highest per person spending right there. He's the highest single year per person spending, over $9,000. And this was in 2019 under Justin Trudeau. You probably think, oh, these damn liberals again. But if we look at the chart, Harper's not far off it. And actually, in 1 year, he peaked just below 9,000. And then it drops off. Martin, Chrétien, Mulroney, right there. Joe Clark, Pierre Trudeau. And this is 1968 around here. This is when the establishment, the LibCon establishment, caved into the globalist interest. And you can see all the expenditure increased, the debt increased. But this graph is very, very deceptive. It's very deceptive. It doesn't show the bigger financial picture. And that's probably deliberate by this institute. I don't know. But you should always try and look at the big picture, so you can put the specific picture in context. Otherwise, you're manipulating people. So we took the time to crunch the numbers. But I should point out here, if we go through this report, it says here both Prime Minister Mulroney and Chrétien recorded the average annual per person spending declines. at 0.3%. Very deceptive. But this is the big picture here. This is the history of Canada's federal debt, PM and party from April 20th, 1968 to January 11th, 2020. So that's right when they sold off to the globalist interest. And down here we have the PM and parties from 1968. This is the percentage of federal debt. And look here, Mulroney has almost half the federal debt since 1968, the Conservatives. 44.72% spending, accumulation of debt. Followed by Harper at 17%. So the so-called Conservatives are the least fiscally responsible since 1968. Then we have Pierre Trudeau at 14.42%, followed by Justin Trudeau at 13.32% of the total debt. Justin Trudeau and Pierre Trudeau combined have less than Mulroney. They're at, 27, nearly 28%. Then we got Chrétien at 6.8, Clark 1.9, Turner at 0.99, Campbell at 0.88, and Martin, who was in a real boom period, at minus 2.6%. A point here is that the Liberals were in power over 6 years longer than the Conservatives, and yet the Conservatives added to the debt by more than double. Look at the numbers. So this is the LibCon establishment, completely sold out to the globalist interests. This graph here shows it overall. From April 20th, 1968 to January 11th, 2020. From April 20th, 1968, the Conservatives, so-called Conservatives, I believe they're a globalist party based on their policies and actions. They've added 65.5% of the total federal debt since 1968. That's over $463 billion. And the Liberals, they've added 32.48%. Less than half of what the so-called Conservatives have added. That's $229 billion plus. Combine the Liberal and Conservative, the LibCon here, they combine 97.98% of the total federal debt owing from, and this is only from 1968 to 2020, January 11th. Almost 98% of the total federal debt, which is over $700 million, has been accumulated by the LibCons from 1968. And this is when the country turned for the worse. Those are the facts. You go crunch your numbers if you don't believe them. But these numbers are from the Department of Finance. These numbers are from Canadian Taxpayer.com. Their debt clock. We tabulated all the numbers. You fact check it, but those are the real numbers. We don't support conservative liberal. We view them as the same. They're just part of the establishment. We call it LibCon establishment. But the important message today is that they are fiscally mismanaging this country, which is resulting in higher taxes, less government services and benefits, and part of this is the debt service payments to the banks. It's over $32 billion a year federally. That's gone. And it's only going to increase. The interest rates are being suppressed. They're very low. They're between 1 and 2%, 1.75. They really should be around 8%. There will be a correction coming up. And those debt service payments could increase to 40 billion plus out of your pocket, your tax dollars. But this is the reality. I'm going to go back to the original graph here from the Fraser. You see how deceptive it is. They're saying Mulroney had to decline, but if you look overall, this globalist shill conservative, Mulroney, was the most egregious spender of any PM. Completely fiscally irresponsible. Harper was second. And then you have Pierre Trudeau and Justin Trudeau in there. We don't support either of those parties. Look what they're doing to the country. Look at the massive debt. Look at the massive debt. Prior to 1968, there was very little debt. Then the public lending rights shifted. And we got this massive debt. And it's only growing every year. Why does the mainstream media never talk about this? Why isn't the Fraser Institute talking about these numbers? What is their agenda? Get the facts. Please share your comments.